So welcome everybody, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We have quite a packed hour to talk to you. My name's Yvette Henderson from Keogh Consulting. Our topic for this afternoon is resilience, a very important topic, particularly at the moment. I'd like to introduce my co-stars. I'm talking today to Suzanne Brookes.
Hi everyone.
Hi Suzanne, over in Brisbane. To Emma Robson from Aspen Coaching.
Hello.
Hey Emma, great to have you. And Dr. Charlotte Brown from Resilient Organisations, all the way in Christchurch, New Zealand. Hi Charlotte.
Hi everyone.
I'll also introduce you to Terence. Terence Young is our producer and timekeeper. Apparently Margaret can't see me. Okay, so first of all, just a couple of notes for participants. If the slides are blocked at the moment by the video tiles, you need to click on View Options and then select the side-by-side mode. So I'll just give you 1 second to make sure that that's done. And during the time today, please feel free to leave comments in the chat box along the way. At the end, we're going to post a link to a recording of the webinar, and we'll put that on our Keogh Consulting website with a summary of the discussion, so you can share that with others. And if you have a question from today's session, please forward it to us at hello@keoghconsulting.com.au. You can also find that on our website. Our discussion is around our Keogh Wisdom Wheel. This is a tool that we've been using at Keogh for quite a long time, and it's a tool that we're proud of and find very useful in most of our work. So we look at 4 quadrants. We're going to look at EQ, or emotional intelligence, SQ, spiritual intelligence, PQ, physical intelligence, and TQ, technical intelligence. And we're going to talk about resilience within each of those 4 quadrants. So starting to expand a bit more on EQ, EQ represents a person's capacity to sustain and develop skills and abilities to enhance relationships with both self and others. So they're skills that help us understand and express and manage our emotions, not just for ourselves, but in other people that we work with. We term it the empowerment of our emotions. Our SQ, or spiritual intelligence, represents our skills and abilities to have and follow a clear vision and purpose. So it's the ability to adopt and solve problems and to understand and feel connection with the greater whole. And we term it empowerment of purpose. Our PQ, or our physical intelligence, is the knowledge, skills and abilities that are directly related to the sustenance and development of the human body, from nutrition to capability to act. It's an important one. It's our capacity to respond to stress, emotions, danger and opportunity within our own bodies. So we term it the empowerment of body. And our technical intelligence, our TQ, represents our professional knowledge and expertise. So the skills and abilities that we pick up and learn as we work in order to get our jobs done. And we call it our empowerment of knowledge. So let's define resilience, or talk about resilience. Dr. Barbara Fredrickson defines resilience as when you're able to, when faced with emotional storms, bend without breaking and bounce back to weather the next storm even better equipped than you were for the last. Resilient people are emotionally agile. Really interesting, particularly in the times of COVID at the moment. We've all had to grab onto our resilient skills and use them to bounce back, because there's been significant setbacks. So Charlotte, I'd like to ask you a question. What is not resilience, do you think?
Resilience is not about just absorbing the impact. It's not about being stoic and just carrying on. It's about turning, I'm now answering what it is, but it's sort of about turning adversity into opportunity.
Perfect. So again, it's not about coping, and it's not about being persistent and just soldiering on, because we all try to do that in difficult times. It's honed from combining, compounding and practicing learnable skills. So it involves self-awareness and mindfulness, self-care, relationships and purpose. Emma, what do you believe are the characteristics of a resilient leader?
I think a resilient leader is someone who is empathetic of others, of their situation, and that can kind of zoom out a little bit and see the bigger picture in amongst the chaos. So you can hold the company's or the individual's morals and needs close while still projecting forward a view and being willing and courageous enough to act.
Fantastic, thank you. Suzanne, what about a team? What would be the characteristics of a resilient team?
I think that one of the big things is that they're actually able to work together and support each other with their strengths and opportunities. And I think that's the crutch of it.
Thank you. So they have a balanced approach to mind, body and heart, a resilient leader, an ability to know where you're heading and a commitment to reaching the goal, a capacity to take people along the journey with you, sharing a clear vision and purpose, while helping them to recognise and embrace the part they play in the bigger picture. So one piece of a bigger picture. I'd like to now hand over to Suzanne Brookes at Keogh. Suzanne's going to take us through a little bit more our EQ, or our emotional intelligence, and our empowerment of emotions. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thanks, Yvette. So we're going to look at the top left-hand quarter of the quadrant here, which is the emotional intelligence, as Yvette said. So we call it the EQ. So I'd like to start by having you join in here and have an activity, a poll activity, where we want you to look at 3 different perspectives. The first perspective is yourself. Then the second perspective is your leader, and third perspective, your organisation. And what we want you to think about when you're answering this poll is on a 1, I think we've got 1 to 5 scale. I think we've cut it down from our 1 to 10, 1 to 5 scale on how resilient would you rate during the height of COVID pandemic. Would you rate yourself first, your leader and your organisation? 1 being low resilience, and then obviously the 5 being the high resilience. So I'll start off with the yourself. So you should have that in front of you there. I can see people voting. Okay, still got a bit of action. Okay, I think everyone's stopped. Yep. No. All right, I might end polling there. Last opportunity. Okay, I'll end the poll. And then I'll share results. So on a 1 to 5 scale. So I'd like to ask Emma, what are you noticing there? Any insights into those results that we've got?
Yeah, I think they're really positive. So we've got a lot of people rating 4 and 5. Majority of people rating themselves a 4 for their resiliency through COVID, which is really great to see. No one rating themselves down at a 1 or a 2.
Super. Great. Okay. So now we'll go on and have a look and poll for your leader at that time. Okay. There we go.
That's interesting. Can you see? No.
Okay, I think we might have stable results here now. All right, so I'll end the polling. Last opportunity. Bit of changing. Okay, I'll end the poll there and I'll share the results. Okay, So Charlotte, your turn now. So what are you noticing there? Perhaps comparing your self votes up to your leader.
Well, it's much the same, isn't it? I do wonder whether we've got a bit of a bias in our audience. People who are already engaged in resilience, who are already in organisations that are thinking and acting in this way. So we'll see in the next poll if that's the case. But it's really great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, then the final one we've got is your organisation. So let's get that one up. Okay, and launch. Okay, looks like we've got. Okay, so I'll end polling. It looks like everyone's decided. Okay, and I'll share the results. Oh, interesting. Okay, and Yvette, would you like to comment now on this one and perhaps the three of them together?
It is really interesting, Suzanne. I'd almost like to have seen the first one with the last one, because I have a feeling it's got a little bit stronger as we've gone up from personal to leader to organisation. I'm not sure if that's just me. I just feel like that number 4 graph has crept up a bit. But clearly we all work for organisations that we believe have strong resilience, which is fantastic to see, and that are bouncing back after some adversity. So that's a really good start anyway.
Thanks,
is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I noticed that we didn't have, anyone in the low resilience. So as Charlotte said, to Charlotte's point, obviously we're dealing with organisations here and people here that are quite resilient. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
And I think it also shows that people know how important resilience is.
Absolutely.
It's something that they think about.
Okay. All right, so from that, I just want to share with you 2 tools that might be able to help you with maintaining or, growing resilience, either for yourself or perhaps helping your leader or your organisation. Okay, so one of them is the gratitude journal, which I'm sure many of you have used before. So it's obviously whether you use it online or whether you like a book like I do and write everything down, but it's all those things that I guess we are grateful for, or incidences in our life that we can reflect on and think, okay, well, how did I deal with that then? Is there something in that I can take forward into this new situation and help me to bounce back and to be more resilient? So perhaps there are all those amazing things in your life, like graduating uni and it was really challenging, but you got through it at the end of the day. The second thing I'd like to share with you is the sushi train metaphor, which is a great little caricature clip narrated by Russ Harris, who is, or Dr. Russ Harris. He's an author trainer of the acceptance and commitment therapy. So he's using this metaphor really well. So I'll just start it and then we can discuss after.
So imagine that you're sitting in front of a sushi train at one of those Japanese restaurants, and there are all these dishes going past on the train. And in the center, there is the chef creating all of these dishes. The chef is like your mind, and the dishes are like all of those thoughts, ideas, memories that keep cropping up, coming and going all day long. Some of the dishes on that sushi train may be very appealing. Some of the stuff on that sushi train may be unappealing. And some of it may be neutral, and take it or leave it. And it's much the same with our thoughts, memories, ideas that pop up throughout the day. Some of them are very pleasant, we really like them, we want to hold on to them. Some of them are very unpleasant and we just want to turn away from them, get rid of them. And a lot of them are kind of neutral, they're neither positive nor negative. So all day long, the sushi chef of our mind is creating all these different dishes, And the train keeps carrying them round and round. These thoughts keep cropping up throughout the day. Now we can learn to step back and watch our thoughts coming and going in much the same way that we can step back and watch that sushi train. An unpleasant dish pops up on the train, we don't have to turn away in disgust and horror. A pleasant dish comes by, we don't have to reach over and grab it and stuff it down our mouth. And we can do the same with our own thoughts. We can step back with an attitude of openness and curiosity and watch them come and stay and go in their own good time.
Okay. My takeout on this is, and I think, as I said, it's a fabulous metaphor. And anyone who likes sushi and has been to sushi train, you are just watching the sushi going around the train. And Russ is talking about that's the way we should be looking at our thoughts, just observing them. And we can choose how we act in any situation. It's our decision to be made. Okay. On that note, I'd like to introduce to Yvette to do the next quadrant, which is the SQ, or the spiritual quadrant in the empowerment of purpose. Over to you, Yvette.
Thanks, Suzanne. So the SQ quadrant is in the top right-hand corner of our wisdom wheel, as you can see, which is spiritual intelligence. And it's an empowerment of purpose quadrant. So in search of a meaning and a life of purpose. So I have some questions, and I'm going to ask my co-hosts some of these questions. Emma, why do you think purpose is important?
I think purpose is important because of the experience we have. So when I'm doing something out of purpose, there's a meaning behind it and a reason for it. The joy, happiness, all the positive feelings I'm going to experience from that are heightened. So my joy of life is more, but it also, it's what drives me to act. So, you know, you can tell me to go do something, but unless I have a reason behind doing it, I'm not really going to go about it with any enthusiasm.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Emma. So as Emma's saying, if you can define your purpose to yourself and act in every area of life towards that purpose or with that purpose in mind, as a goal and a reason, it can be the most empowering thing that you'll ever do. So it's really important. So Suzanne, how does having a sense of purpose help build resilience?
I think it gives you, that innate kind of inner strength that I know where I'm going. I know the direction I'm going in. So it almost empowers you in a way that that you know your path. You're not going on a dirt track, and even if you are, you know you can get through your dirt track and get back on the highway again.
It helps with that bounce back. So it's like a measuring stick as well.
Yeah.
So if we know what it is, it enables us, because the setbacks and sidetracks come along, but we can refocus and we can remind ourselves of what's important and what our overall objective or goal is going to be. So the bounce back and moving forward obviously helps us to develop and strengthen our personal resilience. Thanks, Suzanne. Okay, over to Charlotte, because Charlotte has a person in mind that we can all, I think, relate to at the moment. Who would you say, Charlotte, has a strong sense of purpose?
I think as the New Zealand representative on the panel, I think I'm going to have to nominate Jacinda Ardern. You know, she does really lead with a lot of a really strong sense of purpose around her values and about being kind and leading with integrity. And I think that's really comes clear in everything she does, and it always comes back to that sort of strong sense of value and integrity and purpose.
Thanks, Charlotte. Suzanne?
Oh, look, I'd have to say Turia Pitt. Been following this amazing lady for quite a while. I think, you know, she's the epitome of strength. She's resilient, and she's trying to make a difference in the world, you know, through her own adversity. So, yeah, she'd have to be my vote.
Thanks, Suzanne. Emma?
My one is my mum. So my mum is incredibly resilient, and I've watched her grow and evolve over the last 10 years. She's just completely changed her life. My mum was someone who in her 20s had a very severe car accident and was in a coma, and through her 20s and 30s was riddled with pain and migraines and hip, knee, low back pain and all sorts of things. And now I've watched her from her late 40s to mid 50s just completely take on all of that and rewrite her future going forward, and it's amazing.
So what's your underlying purpose, do you think, if you had to say what she drives towards or what drives her?
To be able to still participate in life, I guess. Like when us kids were all at home, her purpose was us. So she was on the sidelines and she took care of us and did everything for us. Then we all moved out of home as we grew up, and she found herself, you know, without not being able to come and do the things we were doing, because her physical body was really getting in the way. So I guess, yeah, like she says, I would be double hip replacement, knee replacement, and probably in a wheelchair and a string of medications if I didn't do what I'm doing. And now she's pain-free, super fit, joins into adventure races, can go on holidays, can do whatever she wants. So, yeah.
Fantastic story. Perfect. Yeah. And for me, I'm actually going to say myself, which is a bit of a strange thing to say, and it's been a long time coming, but if I look back on my life as I've gone through, I've always worked towards the same goal and have ended up in a occupation that is the same, which is just facilitating and helping other people find their purpose or find ways to grow and enhance themselves. And that's in every role that I take. So that's become what I believe is my mantra or my purpose going forward, is just to ensure that other people have the opportunity to grow and develop and reach bigger heights for themselves and to clear the pathways. So I'll ask the viewers, imagine for a moment how you might feel or how you might work, how you might lead if you knew every action was leading towards what you valued the most, your measure of success. What would you see when you glanced in the mirror? What would people say about you, and how would they describe you? And how would someone characterize you? Have a think about these questions. And again, as I said, we're recording this session, so you'll be able to have a recap. But use the questions as a guide to just have a think about your purpose. It's a really interesting exercise. Okay. And I'll leave this section with this great caricature that was penned by a famous artist, cartoonist actually, in the UK called Banksy. And during the time of COVID, when they were at the height of the pandemic in the UK and things were sort of going out of control, he drew this, and it was in the newspapers, I believe, and it characterises a number of different roles, be it a nurse, a police officer, a firefighter, a frontline ambulance officer, all in the same purpose, and that is of a superhero, because their purpose was really to help protect humanity and help look after people and help make sure that the world was starting to operate again properly within the community. So it was a beautiful example of purpose for a number of different roles. We all have so many different roles. We have roles as a mother, as a spouse, as a partner, as a colleague, and all those roles have a slightly different aim or mission or whatever, but what drives them together for you is often your underlying purpose. So it's another good thing to think about, is what connects you in every role that you have, and that's your purpose. So I'm going to hand over to Emma now. Emma's going to talk to us about our PQ quadrant under empowerment of body. Emma's from Aspen Coaching. Our PQ quadrant's in the bottom left-hand side of the profile of the wisdom wheel. And Emma, I shall hand over to you. I think you can manage that.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this program or this webinar. The work I do at Aspen Coaching, we are a movement facility, I guess, so a gym, as most people would call it. However, one of the common things we hear from most of our members is, oh no, I don't go to a gym, I go to Aspen. And to us, that's like amazing to hear, because when we opened this business and set out to do what we were doing, we really wanted to redefine a little bit what people saw as exercise and what it meant to keep fit and look after the body. So hearing that become like an organic little tagline that people throw around was amazing. The space, what we're about is about giving people this empowerment of themselves, of their body. So it's not about fitness and weight loss and muscle and all these types of things that are generally associated with gyms. We want people, no matter where you're at, to meet yourself and learn better communication skills, better problem solving skills for looking after and basically becoming more self-resilient, self-reliant to look after ourselves for the long term. And I think we're well on our way to doing that with our community of people that we reach. Because what we do is a little bit different. I have organised a little bit of a video which kind of shows a bit about, little snippets of our practice and just me discussing what resiliency is to us. So I'll share that with you now. What does resiliency mean to you? To us, being resilient means being able to adapt quickly and become stronger through applied stress. It is being able to keep a clear mind and respond strategically rather than emotionally. It is knowing yourself well and being empathetic towards others. It is putting in the work when everyone else wants to run away. Physical exercise and training has long been associated with fitness, weight loss, and muscle. We want to shift your perspective and offer a broader definition of how physicality could show up in your life. We want you to elevate in all areas of health, to be able to handle all the challenges life throws at us, and more importantly, for it to have a positive effect on your physiology in the long run. It is going to take a rather big shift. It is going to take shifting aside your preconceived ideas about your body, what it can do, what it should do, and what you want it to do. It is going to take beginning with a clean, open slate. Changing behaviours and culture is a tough challenge. To successfully do this, first we must shift the way we define things. Things such as what it means to communicate, what it means to problem solve, what it means to collaborate, what it means to fail, and what it means to try. Shift your perspective, shift your actions, and you shift your results. Have you heard of the term anti-fragility by Nassim Nichols Taleb? Anti-fragility refers to a system that gets stronger through stress. It is the system that continually adapts to its environment, gains intelligence, increases awareness, gathers feedback, creates adaptations, and ultimately has more choice. Unlike a flower that can die in the wrong environment, the human body will adapt. If stress is applied, we will find a way to cope, for better or for worse. The key is to add beneficial stresses, accurately dose them, and be observant of the changes they have on us over a long time. If your body is stiffening up and becoming tight, it is adapting to the environment that it is put in. It is adapting the best way it can to the stimulation it is receiving. We would like to see humans that are more resilient, that can alternate behaviours, modify protocols, adapt, and ultimately come out on top after challenges. And no, this is not a mind over matter, go hard or go home approach. In fact, it is the opposite. It is knowing when to tap out. It is knowing when to rest, knowing when to seek help, knowing when to work, and being willing to work. It is doing the right thing, not the easiest thing. It is being willing to go through the fire for what is on the other side. This is not just about the physical. It is also about the emotional states that we go through, challenging who you think you are and what you think you are capable of. Drawing attention to your habits, trying new approaches, being creative and courageous. We want resilience, the ability to do it all, smile, laugh, and enjoy the ride. The empowerment that comes from choice, knowing that each obstacle is in your life from your doing and is there for you to overcome or for you to choose a different route. There is total power that comes from being in control of your actions. Even the subconscious ones are within your reach to influence. However, this takes time and practice. We cannot simply talk about it. We must enact it. We must live it. This is how resiliency becomes a trainable quality. Our world is filled with more and more creature comforts. Things are created to make life easier, faster, more efficient, more comfortable. But with each new comfort comes a downfall of our system. We get lazier. We rely on the system and the buttons and the creams and the pills and the doctors to fix things, to fix us. The more we outsource, the more reliant we become. So we aim to flip this, remove the comforts and create a stronger ecology within us. We all have some coping mechanisms, whether we are aware of them or not, that we have put in place to protect us from our insecurities, our past traumas, our injuries and our fears. Resiliency is to look in the mirror at these things and be willing to do the work that makes us healthier. It is being soft enough to change, yet strong enough not to change all at once. So yeah, I just wanted to share that video, or I made that video for this webinar, because I think the type of movement or the type of exercises and the ways in which we bring about the qualities that everyone here is discussing today, like having the communication skills to work in a team and being empathetic of other people and being able to problem solve, we get to experience them in a real physical and safe setting. So we're experiencing it when the stakes are actually pretty low. So I get to experience overcoming my feeling uncomfortable or feeling inadequate or feeling whatever it might be, and have this really safe, supportive environment with the people that we work with to overcome and challenge our perceived ideas of ourselves, basically. Yeah.
Thanks, Emma. Can I need to ask this question.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to be able to stand on the Jenga blocks?
The first time I tried, it was impossible. I was like, there's no way. I saw someone do it 5 blocks high and I couldn't even stand on one. And I was like, no, that must be a trick. She must be holding on to something like somewhere. And then once you get it, you realize it's fine, because it's about balancing your 3 body weight centers. So how you move your hips, ribs and head in relation to each other. And as soon as you forget about one of the others, you fall off. Okay. So it's being able to, yeah.
Does it hurt?
Yeah.
It looks like it would hurt incredibly.
A little bit. As your feet get stronger, it's fine. But probably 60 seconds is plenty. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Emma.
No worries.
Lovely. Any other questions from Suzanne or Charlotte?
I just love the part about the more we outsource with doctors, the more reliant we become. That really resonates with me, because I think so many of us do that every day without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And, you know, we can't deal with all the things all the time. We kind of have to pick and choose. But I think our health and our physical body is one thing that we can't do without, because if we ignore it too long, it will stop us doing everything that's fun and worthwhile in life. So, yeah, you know, I encourage people to start as early as possible, of course, because it's easier, but doesn't matter what age you are to begin this type of thing. Yeah.
I also, I really liked the contrast you talked about. So things like softness and strength. Like we often talk about being stronger and better and harder, but actually it's about balancing that yin and that yang, if you like. And it was really powerful for me.
Yeah, definitely. It's always, we do what we're good at. So you'll find the people that are already a bit bendy and flexible lean towards yoga, and the people that are strong go towards the weights, and the people that like to run do marathons. So you fall into your strengths. And I think this is brought up in the way we're educated. You find what you're good at and you follow it. But if we ignore the other side of that, we just create this big disbalance. So yeah, definitely understanding who I am and what I need in this moment is the overall message. Yeah.
Thanks, Emma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. So I'm going to hand over for our last quadrant to Dr. Charlotte Brown at Resilient Organisations. And Charlotte's going to talk to us about TQ, or technical intelligence, which is in the bottom right-hand quadrant of the wisdom wheel. And as you can see, and partly from what Emma's talked about too, the whole thing for us is about balance. So resilience being balanced in all corners, not just one, not just focused on one area. So I hand over to you now, Charlotte.
Thanks very much, Yvette. So I'll just go back there. So yeah, I'm from Charlotte and I'm from Resilient Organisations. We're based in Christchurch, New Zealand. And really what we look at is organisations. So not so much the personal resilience, but about how organisations can build themselves to be future ready or ready for anything. So just before I get into the content, I just wanted to give you a bit of an introduction to our organisation. We're a small research and consulting group. We have about 8 staff, and about half of our work is doing government research and other industry body group research, and then we do consulting with private organisations as well. And really what we want is to make organisations that are surviving and thriving through crisis and change. So we've moved from this world, this old world, where we have stability, certainty, simplicity and clarity. Over the last decades, we have been developing all these systems within our organisations that are built about just in time and rigid processes. So when I talk about just in time, we've developed our supply chain so that they automatically recharge when stocks go down. But when you have a disruption like COVID and everybody raids the supermarkets for toilet paper, for example, those systems break down. So really what we need to do is look at our systems and adapt them for this environment where we're expecting increased volatility, uncertainty, complexity and ambiguity. We live in this increasingly complex world of interdependencies with the technologies we rely on and the global connectedness of the world. So we live in this environment that causes us some discomfort because it doesn't suit the old ways we did things where we thought we could predict what the future was. So what we want to do is build organisations that are comfortable with this discomfort and that they are ready for anything. So this uncertainty that I'm talking about comes from risks that we do know about and things that we've experienced before and that we know might happen in the future. So of course we've got pandemics, we've got droughts, floods, earthquakes, bushfires, storms, all those kind of natural hazard events. Where, as I said, we've experienced them before, we've got some data, we kind of know what we need to do to get through them, but we're not sure when they might happen again or what exactly they might look like. But there's also these other emerging trends that are happening in the background. Things like technology changes, changes to our biodiversity, impacts on our water supplies, aging population, climate change, the list goes on. There's all these things happening in the background that are gradually changing. And we haven't experienced some of the impacts that these are going to cause, and we just don't know what we're going to have to deal with. So our organisations need to start moving to become a bit more flexible and a bit more adaptable to these changing situations. So if I could summarise that in a cartoon, this is what it would be. We've got to stop, as organisations, stop crystal ball gazing and anticipating what we see the future as and designing an organisation that's going to be successful in that particular future. And we've got to think, well, actually, what could the future, what is the variety of futures that we could hold, and how do we position our organisation to do better no matter what the future holds? So if we put it into an analogy, we could think about surfing, and we could see the waves as being the changes that are coming or the crisis that we might experience. So we can get defensive about those things and we can hide away from them. We can stand on the shore, or we can learn to surf. We can learn to move with the change, and we can learn to actually potentially enjoy it or create opportunities through that. I think surfing is a really fantastic analogy for thinking about how your organisation can become more resilient. So the definition of resilience that we use at Resilient Organisation is the ability to thrive in a world of uncertainty and change and survive any crisis. So there's two elements there. So often in New Zealand, we experience a lot of natural hazards. So people often associate resilience with surviving short-term crises. But actually it's much, much broader than that. It's about seeing the changes of time and making sure we adapt our organisation over time for all those changing trends. Through the years of research that we've done, Resilient Organisations actually started back in 2004. So we've been thinking about resilience for quite a long time now, and we've done a number of research projects, and through that we have discovered that there's sort of two main components to resilience. One of those is a planned resilience, and the other is adaptive resilience. So the planned part of resilience is thinking about those risks we know about, or the things that we can reasonably easily predict, and designing systems in our organisations to cope with those. So for those of you who are familiar with the area, that might be things like having a business continuity manager in your organisation or developing emergency plans. So those are the things we can plan. And maybe it's slightly about how we look at our strategy within our organisation as well, and and maybe seeing that a customer preferences is changing over time and planning for that, that change and adapting your services or products. But there's also this other underlying element which often gets overlooked because it's not as easy, it's not as tangible to deal with, and that's your ability to adapt under uncertainty and change. And that's about the ethos of the organisation and whether the organisation is ready to deal with uncertainty and ready to move at short notice. So I just wanted to pause there and ask the fellow panelists whether they had any examples of what organisations are doing, maybe organisations worked for or worked with to kind of adapt to uncertainty and change.
Charlotte, I'd just like to say here that I think with the adaptive piece for me, we work at Keogh a lot with helping organisations with their culture, and we always say it's culture by design, not by default, because we have something to do there. So for me, there's a part of the planned part in there with the culture, because you can design your culture, but by designing an adaptive culture, it will actually be more resilient. So we do work around that. So this really resonates with me looking at this graph.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Culture is intent. It definitely has to be intent. You know, you can't just let culture evolve. It needs to be something that is thought about and built over time. Yeah, Yvette and Emma, do you have anything?
Well, then for me, it's actually really quite simple. It comes down to using technology at the moment to do some of the work that we've always done face to face. And so when COVID started, we were able to plan some things. But then as you actually progress or run those programs through technology, you have to adapt very quickly because it doesn't necessarily go according to plan. And I've just experienced recently, I'm running a program where I have groups go off and sort of have discussions amongst themselves. And if I was face-to-face facilitating, I would go and plonk myself in a chair next to them and join in that discussion and make sure that they're on track and have they got any issues or whatever. And now instead it's popping into a virtual room and they freeze. It's like I'm spying on them. And so that element of contact or connection is not there because there's no human face-to-face contact. And they sort of go, have we got time out or what's happening? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm just coming to see if you need any help or to join in the conversation. So it's become a little bit stilted. So I'm still working through that. So that adaptive is a huge component at the moment for Keogh and for me especially.
Good practical example.
I think for me, what comes to mind is like, I guess my own personal situation would be when we got the announcement at 7 p.m. on a Sunday night that we must close our gym at 12 o'clock the next day. And we're a very young business. We were only in our second year. And that was like heartbreaking for us to think, okay, we're closing indefinitely. We have no source of income from tomorrow. Like, what are we going to do? And so we went to work as normal. We worked through till 12 o'clock. And then we all sat down as a team. First of all, with our members, we all had a bit of a cry and a hug. They all went out. We closed the doors and we sat as a team. And by Wednesday morning, 6 a.m., we were fully online. We'd spoken to every single member on the phone, and we were, trying to figure out technology and Zoom and buying microphones and doing what everybody else was doing. But it kept us afloat, and it's actually made us stronger coming out the other side. So it's actually been an incredible learning curve. Learning how to edit videos like the one, or create and make these videos like what we did today, like all of this was born. We wouldn't have been doing it without COVID. So yeah.
Thanks, Emma. That's a really interesting example, because it's not uncommon for small organisations to be just like you. They tend to be stronger in this adaptive capacity. They're good at managing their teams, they tend to have strong leadership, and they're good at moving on the fly, whereas the larger organisations tend to be stronger in the planned.
Of course. Yeah.
So at Resilient Organisations, through these years of research that we've done, we've kind of developed this model of organisational resilience and the kind of the key attributes that resilient organisations have. So the first attribute is around leadership and culture, and this is how an organisation is, I guess, the ethos of the organisation, how well it's led, how well staff are engaged in the organisation, how the organisation looks across the horizon to see if any changes are coming and to kind of prepare themselves beforehand for changes. And also around innovation and creativity, because that is something that's really important when the situation changes to something you haven't thought about. There's also the other attribute is networks and relationships. And this is about, for big organizations, it's about how teams within an organization work well together and share information and develop teams that pull the strongest the best skills for a particular problem together. But it's also about how an organization looks outside itself and connects to other organizations and individuals that might be beneficial in times of change and crisis. And the third attribute is to be change ready. And I always think about this one as being a boxer. So a boxer in a ring standing on their toes, just waiting to move in any direction, to move in the direction that their opponent goes. And so that's really about it. And it's about the planning as well, and testing those plans to make sure that you've assumed the right things, and also having a clear unity of purpose, so that when an event does happen, the organisation has a clear path forward. They know, what their purpose is, to bring it back to Yvette's earlier comment, so that everyone is making decisions and designing a solution that is the right fit for that organisation. And so to draw the organisational resilience component back to where we started this presentation with Yvette and Suzanne in the personal resilience, and Emma in the personal resilience space, we can have an organisation that is full of really resilient individuals, but unless we support those individuals to be successful, that resilience is not going to be much benefit to the organisation. And so what I mean by that is, you could have a really resilient person enter a workplace, but there could be a really toxic culture in that workplace. There could be bullying, there could be micromanagement, certain things within an organisation that will erode the effectiveness of an individual to perform. So an organisation can't just expect individuals to be resilient, they need to design systems and processes that support those organisations as well, and we call that employee resilience. And so all those three attributes are really critical for success of organisations. So as a last step in this whirlwind tour of organisational resilience, for those of you this is a new concept to, there is an online tool that I really recommend you go and have a look at. So this is a tool that we co-developed with the Australian Attorney General's Department, the Resilience Expert Advisory Group there, that helps organisations to just do a quick diagnosis of where they are in their resilience. So it asks a series of questions based on the resilience model that I just showed you earlier, and helps you get a gauge of what you're doing well, what you could improve on, and some potential next steps for you. And it just takes 5 minutes to start that conversation in your organisation. So I really recommend that. And that is me, and I'll hand back to Yvette.
Thank you, Charlotte. Excellent. So we've had a wealth of information from all of us today. And I think it'll be really good actually to go and review this for some of you, because there's some great tips within our seminar this morning. And also there's some links that you might want to check out to develop a little bit further your knowledge in resilience, or even to understand a little bit more about how resilient you really are and whether you actually would like to develop further. We're very fortunate, we've collaborated with the webinar, but we're very fortunate to continue our collaboration with Charlotte and Emma, and Suzanne and I are very keen to be working with them going forward. We've developed a workshop called Extend, and it's a leadership development program, a holistic program that connects head, heart and body, and helps you develop a sort of a broader, stronger, deeper level of leadership ability and capacity. And it's a really good self-reflection module as well. It covers the wisdom wheel, so we'll break the program up into emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, physical and technical intelligence. And you can reach out to us on our website, and we will have this published for you at the end of the session as well. And I'm really, really pleased that you all joined us this afternoon, and I thank you very much. Thank you, Emma from Aspen Coaching.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And Charlotte from Resilient Organisations.
Yeah, like
and of course my wonderful colleague Suzanne, who she and I work together more than ever because of COVID, because technology has been a bonus during the time of COVID, and we have adapted, and it's created some wonderful outcomes. So thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon, and we look forward to hearing from you.